Tim Smith of the Smith Group here at Cinna Newport, presenting our podcast Room, where we're here to highlight and expose to the world the amazing people, places, stories, and properties of Southern California. Today, I'm so thrilled to have my guest, former MLB player Gary Matthews Jr. Thanks for coming in today, Gary.
Tim, always a pleasure, man. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I want to start out because we're trying to give people a little bit of a flavor from Orange County. I'm going to ask you some questions of local spots.
Okay.
Best breakfast place?
Ooh. Best breakfast I would say a choice between hotcakes.
Okay. On 17th, love it.
On 17th, yeah. Local spot, really good pancakes, great breakfast, great coffees and lattes if you like that. And my second go-to is probably Panini right there in Corona Del Mar on PCH.
I thought you were going to say Panini or Zinc. We've been getting a lot of the Zinc is good too.
Yeah, I get some Zinc, but Panini the French toast is just bonkers. It's on a different level. So, I eat my cheat meals on the weekends, so Saturday morning breakfast, I could flip-flop between hotcakes or Panini on PCH.
Date night, where are you going?
Date night, Orange County is still, in my opinion, a little tough for really authentic restaurants for someone like me who's traveled so much, traveled the world. And so I like these kind of obscure and unique spots. So I think Arc is a really good spot.
Great, for sure.
And for a steakhouse, I like to go off the beaten path. So I think Solani Steak Tavern in Laguna is a really good spot.
Solani,
really unique.
It's probably like one of the best three, right?
I think it's so underrated.
Mastro's, but Solani's is always good. There's the new one, the Drake. Have you been to the Drake?
I have been to the Drake. They got kind of like a jazzy scene there. You show up early. They got like a jazz band going. I like it.
Yeah, South Laguna used to be Taboo Grill. My wife and I just went there when we were down in Monarch, and we had like the most epic dinner. And I don't know if it was just if this was a normal night, but the guy that was singing was just killing it, dude.
And this at the Drake?
Yeah, like old jazz band.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was killing. We started in the bar, end up in the restaurant. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah, they had like a 4 or 5 piece band. They had a guy on the bass.
Yeah.
Right?
Awesome.
Somebody on drums.
But it's weird because it's like a little retail center in the front. Okay, you said something that made me think. You've traveled all over. You've lived in a lot of different spots, played. Yeah. Why Orange County? Like, this is what I want to know, because the big thing right now is we're seeing 5 times the out-of-state demand for people to live here because it's so safe, great climate, and great lifestyle. So why Orange County? You could live anywhere.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. All the things that you described, right? It's the weather's amazing, first and foremost, and the logistics of being able to get to and from. Get your kids off to school, get them off to camps and their different sports, and you can get off to work and then still have a life of your own without sitting in hours and hours of traffic that you might have in certain major metropolitan cities. So, LA is right down the road. You compare it to the traffic and logistics in LA, it's just not even close. And so I ended up here really simple. The Angels needed a center fielder. And I really wanted to come home and come back and play in California. I think I was 32 at the time.
This was 2006
when you came? This was 2000, after the season in 2006. So between the 2006 and 2007 seasons, I was a free agent. Yeah. And we were, really, truth be told, I was trying to get a deal done with the Texas Rangers. I'd played there for 4 years. In the American League West, and I had a really good relationship with the fan base, great relationship with the front office, and specifically the coaching staff, Rudy Jaramillo and DeMarlo Hale. And I'd really come into my own there, finally got a chance to play every day, found a fan base and an organization who supported me and gave me an opportunity to play, and I really blossomed. But we couldn't get a deal done, and so the Angels, who I was really familiar with because they were in the American League West. I'd played against them for years, and they had beat up on us. And it's the old adage that if you can't beat them, join them. But really, I'm from Southern California, born and raised. Born in San Francisco when my dad was playing for the Giants, but raised in California. We moved here when I was 6. Both my parents are from LA, and so really it was kind of a natural progression of wanting to come home, wanting to play in front of family.
Yeah.
I felt
Go back
like
real quick, because I'm just curious from your standpoint, why don't deals get done? Is it terms? Is it price? Like, what is it?
Yeah, it could be a combination of everything, right? Sometimes it's the terms, right? Sometimes it's not just the salary. Sometimes it's the number of years.
Yeah.
Sometimes a player really wants to play for a certain organization or wants to play for a certain team. For me, it was kind of all of the above, right? We couldn't get the numbers right, couldn't get the years right on the length of the contract. But, you know, the truth is the Angels were a really good organization. They had a team that I felt wasn't far from a championship, another World Series. And it happened to be where I lived. I was living in Texas at the time, but I'd grown up in LA. And, you know, it is a very unique thing to have an opportunity to come back and play at home where you grew up, where all your family and friends are. Yeah. In a major city like LA. And so I really felt like I was ready. I was mature enough. Yeah. I'm a veteran player by this time at 32 with a lot of experience. And I was ready for it. I wanted the challenge. Most importantly, I wanted to win a World Series. And so that is how I ended up in Orange County. And specifically in Corona Del Mar. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was in commercial real estate, owned strip malls in the San Fernando Valley. And we were talking about...
It's funny how the themes of your life like come back, because we're going to jump into your second career, the real estate, but keep on going.
Yeah, so my maternal grandfather was in commercial real estate, and we were talking about where I should buy a home. You know, should I even buy a home in Orange County? I'd never lived there. Wasn't sure what it was going to be like. Wasn't sure if I was going to truly like playing for the organization. And really long story short, I had that conversation with my grandfather, and he said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to find the best real estate in Orange County. We're going to find the best zip code, not far from freeway access, great schools, logistics, you know, not far from the beach.
So he took his years of real estate and he's like, we're going to go ahead and put it into like a recipe.
Yeah.
And this is what we're going to look for.
Yeah. And so we had a conversation with my grandfather about Corona Del Mar specifically. Yeah. He thought we should buy a small place in a really nice neighborhood, not far from the beach. So I put in a phone call to a high school teammate of mine, Flavio Castro, who was a real estate agent. And we found a home, got a deal done. I looked in Crystal Cove. I looked in Shore Cliffs. And ultimately, I decided on Cameo Highlands, which
great neighborhood,
great family neighborhood, really quiet.
So all the listeners, Cameo Highlands and Cameo Shores are in Corona Del Mar, which is in kind of the heart of Newport Beach, are the very south end of Corona Del Mar before you get into Crystal Cove.
Before it turns into Crystal Cove and then Laguna Beach. But, you know, so it was out of the way, gave me privacy.
Quiet.
Really quiet. You don't even hear the noise. I was one street up
from PCH,
from PCH on Dorchester. So you don't get any of the noise, but you get amazing views in this really small kind of niche of a neighborhood that's not far from the village. So I'd walk into the village.
Yeah.
Great freeway access with the 73 up Newport Coast Drive, or drive through Corona Del Mar Village to MacArthur and then shoot right over to the 73. So, you know, I had really good access to the stadium, getting to the stadium every day over at Angel Stadium. But still the lifestyle that I wanted of having like a really cool kind of beach vibe, really low key, very understated, if you will, but unbelievable values and a great lifestyle.
Yeah. So let's back up before we get into more of the real estate. Let's back up. Newport Beach is a crazy baseball town. I say that because I have a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And my 10-year-old played a couple years of baseball. He's not a baseball player. But the 2 years I was playing, I could not believe the amount of dads and moms that would spend the resources and time training batting coaches, pitching coaches. And so I just like, as I'm thinking about it, I want to go back to when you grew up playing baseball. And I want to think about two things. Number one, for anybody listening out there that has dreams and aspirations of being a baseball player, be it D1 or professional, what advice, and is there a recipe similar to your grandpa's recipe for real estate? Is there a recipe? And then with it, when did you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When did you know that like, okay, like I'm different. Like this is turning into something different.
Yeah. So are you familiar with the game? I mean, obviously you know the game of baseball.
Yeah,
Did you play growing up?
I played through junior high, and then I stuck with basketball and kind of other sports. But yeah,
pitcher?
I was a pitcher.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got the height, 6'4", something like
exactly,
that, tall, thin.
Yeah.
You look like you could have been menacing on the mound.
Yeah, I could probably get 65 down the pipe.
Yeah, so I started, my father was a Major League Baseball player. Was Rookie of the Year, first round draft pick with the Giants. 1973 Rookie of the Year. Yeah, he had an epic career.
Yeah, what an organization.
Really productive, borderline Hall of Famer in my opinion.
Yeah.
Still my hero to this day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a second generation player. So growing up, you have a father that plays. This was his job, and so we were at the stadium every day, right? Quite a bit, and it doesn't take long if you're growing up in it to develop a love for it. Certainly an appreciation for everything that goes into it. So really kind of another natural progression for me. My father played, and I love the game.
It's funny the theme of your father and your grandfather. Great mentors, right?
Unbelievable mentors.
Because one really, real estate, one baseball, right?
Yeah. I was really fortunate to, look, obviously I love these two men. They've been, their influence on my life as a man and my career are just so obvious. But you look at any young man, right, and these influences you have in your life and the impact they have on you. I was just really fortunate that I had these two men in my life who were just highly driven, highly successful, men of integrity, men of their word. And so I've just been really fortunate that I developed an interest in what they did for a living. Yeah. And was able to kind of convert both of those into a passion, first being Major League Baseball, and then, the second career, which we'll get into later on, was from my kind of patterned myself after my maternal grandfather, Willie Smith. Yeah. Just an unbelievable man. We had him till 98. He passed away about eight years ago, but lived to 98, was married for 79 years. Just wow. Unbelievable life that he had. But
it's interesting when you get themes of like mentors, and like we've had a lot of YPO guys in here that have their forums, their personal board of directors. What do you say to the people out there that aren't as fortunate, that don't have dads that were, or fathers? Like, what would you say as an instruction? Yeah. Because you can hack that. You can hack that, but what do you got to do? How do you do that?
Hopefully at some point you're able to figure out something that you're passionate about, right? And once you figure out something that you're passionate about, hopefully it leads to possible mentors, right? People that you admire. Usually someone figures out something that they're passionate about, and then they figure out or happen to run into someone who's really good at it. And that's kind of like where it begins. It's got to be really difficult for certain people who maybe don't have those influences in their life, maybe through family that are just readily available, that are just right there. But maybe it's a teacher in your life at school. Maybe it's a friend, right, that you're going to college with that has a family member, and you're taking an interest in that particular industry. But I try my best to have a circle of really positive people who are driven, people who are smarter than me, people who are better than me about what they do and in what they do. And so eventually it leads to these great relationships built on integrity and character. And a lot of times it leads to opportunities and based on our common interest and our characteristics that we have. And so I would just...
There's a big theme that's coming here, and I just it keeps on coming up, and maybe it's because the people are having, number one, find a mentor, right? If you don't have one, because I have this suspicion that you're like me. If there was a kid or a young man or a young woman that was really earnestly wanted you to be a mentor, is that something you would do?
I do.
Like, absolutely, right? And I find that successful people, and not just successful from a money standpoint and whatever, like part of that is they're looking for those people to mentor.
Yeah.
But part of the thing I think that goes out to the message is you want to be the person that is the good mentee as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people, because I've had some tremendous mentors in my life. One I met at an open house 24 years ago, and we literally talk weekly, daily. We have these traditions still. And I think that, the funny thing is it's a big joke because we talk about how it's a one-sided friendship, because all he does is give me great advice, give me great deal flow, right? And then he refers me all his friends. But at the end of it, I think if you really asked him, he would say, I actually get a lot by giving back to you.
No, 100%.
Right? So that's the one thing. The second theme is, I think everybody needs to realize that you really are the average of the 5 people or the 10 people you hang out with most.
Without question.
So if you don't like what you're doing,
right?
It's like there's a book called Discipline No More that's come up with this, and this guy doesn't believe in discipline. He says basically, if you're in an environment where you have to discipline yourself out of your problems, find a new environment.
Yeah.
Right? Find new friends, find a new mentor. Now, I know there's a lot of insecurities and things that keep you from that, but it's really about just showing up for yourself. So let's jump back to the baseball thing, because I've often gone through this, and I think we've talked about it in the past. So you're growing up at the baseball fields. Dad's a player. Obviously, it makes sense. You love the game. But at what point did you start realizing, was there an age when you're like, okay, you know what? This isn't just a dream. Like, I can actually see. Was there one point where you're like, okay, this was like a big difference or an experience?
Yeah. You're going to laugh at this, but, when you're 4 or 5 years old, you start playing t-ball for the first time, and you recognize, really early, at least I did, that there were things that I could do that other kids couldn't do.
Totally.
And there's so many other things that kind of go into maturing as a player and growing and creating an opportunity as a professional. That's a long way from being 4 years old.
Right.
But if you asked me at 4 or 5 years old, I would have told you that I was going to be a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah.
And if I'm being honest, I would say by 10.
You knew.
I felt I knew it at 10. Really before that, but I sound crazy when I say I was 5 years old and I knew.
Well, but I think there's also the kids that say I'm going to be a professional and they're not, right?
Yeah.
But it's just like, you got to believe in that vision, right? If you don't have that vision, it's not going to drive you to the work. But there's got to be some points when you're like, when you were 10, was there something in the 10 to 15 range where you're like, whether it was an experience where you're just like, okay, like this is just.
It was a passion for the game,
yeah.
Passion and a love for the game. Obviously, I had this influence from my father that played, but I also had an amazing mother, and her influence shouldn't be discounted, right?
Yeah.
Like this, my mother, Mrs. Sandra Creighton. Now my mom's remarried.
Yeah.
She was so amazing as a mother. Filled me with confidence, filled me with love. She was a hard worker, driven. Even my dad was playing, and so
right.
She worked in finance for a long time, and I found out later that she majored in early childhood development, and so that speaks to quite a bit of why she was such an amazing mom. But
give us some of the things that made her amazing in helping you become your best you.
Confidence is so important, and we talk about whether it is professional sports, whether it is real estate, you have to have the utmost confidence. I think it is really important to be realistic about what you do well and what you don't do well, but you also have to have an unrealistic confidence in yourself. And for me, that confidence started with a mother who pumped that belief that you're going to do great, that there's the expectation that you have the gift, you have the talent. Now you're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to follow directions. Yeah. But my mom gave me the utmost confidence at all times. And so when you grow up with an unrealistic confidence about yourself and your ability to accomplish even short-term goals, right? It just built, right? It built from such a young age. And so
it's amazing because I think about this in my aspect because I have, we run one of the biggest groups in the nation now.
Yeah.
And I see these agents that come and they want to be an agent. And I often wonder, like, the confidence, like, so one of the gals that worked for me as an administrative for about a year and a half went into selling real estate. When she started, she just didn't have the confidence. I'm like, and I would sit down, I'm like, you have it.
Yeah.
You just have to choose it. And so now fast forward 8 years and she's like one of the most dominant agents on our team and she kills it. And I say, what was more important? You actually having the knowledge or you actually having the confidence? What came first? And she's like, you know what? I remember we used to talk about this. You're right. If I would have made a choice to have more confidence in the beginning, I could have done a lot better. Yeah. It took me to where I actually had the knowledge till I got the confidence. But now that I have the knowledge, I've realized confidence is a choice.
Yeah.
And belief is a choice. But with having a mother like that, right?
But people don't always start out that way, right? Like you were speaking about mentorship a couple minutes ago and the importance of finding a mentor that can help you reach that next level, right? Maybe she had never really had someone to truly believe in her, right?
Yeah.
To truly believe that,
sure.
that she was talented enough and maybe she needed that confidence from you, right? To hear it, that she's talented enough to make it, to be one of the top agents, to be successful in an industry that's really competitive, right?
Yeah.
None of us are born with this confidence. It grows, right?
Yeah.
Like we have a mentor, we have a parent,
right?
Someone that kind of, gives us a glimpse of what's possible in our lives. And, you said you had your mentor for 24 years and the relationship has changed over the years, but you guys are still close. Did you think that like 24 years from now you're going to be one of the highest grossing agents in the nation and one of the top tier agents in all of Orange County? Like that, it didn't start out that way.
No, but it's funny that you say that about the mentor thing because I think that I always had this yearning to like find people that knew more. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would like latch on to people and I would like, when I was in elementary and junior high, I was going to be a Utah Jazz ball boy. And somehow I became really good friends with Thurl Bailey, who played for the Jazz. And he used to pick me up before the camp. And I think about it now, I was 8 and 9 years old. I wouldn't let my son go with an NBA player from here to LA. But it was like this thing. I don't know what it is, but it's like, part of this is like dissecting things that are successful. Okay, so let's go back to the baseball thing because you were known. I remember, I think it was in 2006, you caught a ball, and I think it was Mike Lamb's ball. Was that it?
Mike Lamb, yeah.
And it was like, and I still remember because they were calling this like one of the greatest defensive plays ever, right? And they were saying like what you were known for is your athleticism, your ability to jump and to catch. Like you were an epic. And so tell me about some of the highlights of your career.
Well, I mean, you just named, probably my the highlight that I'm known for, right? It's like you dedicate almost 37 years of your life to playing a sport. And at the end of it, you're kind of known for like this one big moment.
Yeah.
On one hand, it's kind of like, wow, there's so much more to the career. And there's 37 years that I played the game. But how special is it that I have a moment that fans still remember? I've been retired for 11 years now.
Yeah.
And still probably once a week someone comes up to me and asks me about this particular catch and this play. And
we're going to put it on this just so that
you're going to cue it up?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. They're going to see it.
And so really at this point, I just consider myself really just really fortunate. Right, that fans still remember this play, and to me personally, it's just this small piece of what is, 37 years of a family legacy. My father played. My brother Dell works for Major League Baseball development. He's at headquarters in New York, so he's a young executive in the game who's up and coming. His goal is to eventually become a GM, and so there's so many bits and pieces. It's really doesn't feel like it's just my career. It's really kind of like a family legacy, and I've been able to contribute a small piece of it. Just really, really special.
Yeah,
and
it's almost like the generational legacy because we're seeing a lot of that is baseball.
Yeah, and having been out as long as I've been out now, 11 years, I have a different perspective of how special it is. A lot of times when you're playing and you're living in that moment, you feel the need to kind of keep things even keel. And that was my way of dealing with the pressure and the expectations of playing in a major city, of being a second generation player. I never really allowed myself to feel like that I was that guy, right? That guy with a five-year deal in a major city with a really successful team. That was my way of dealing with the pressure and the expectations that come, and rightfully so, that come with your position of where you're at. But now that I'm out of it, I have this, the memories really has certainly grown sweeter over time, and I have a different appreciation for it. And I always appreciated it while I was doing it. Having conversations with my parents about the game before I started playing professionally, I knew that eventually this game ends. And at the end of the day, what you have is, the most important thing is your family, right?
Yeah.
This family unit that we have, we supported each other with, we've all grown, and the game of baseball is amazing and it's given us a lot, but it's certainly not who we are. It's just a piece of our lives that we've been fortunate enough to have for that small period of time that you're able to play professionally. I've been really fortunate that my family still is involved with the game today, but those memories are just, they've grown unbelievably sweeter over time now that I'm not in it every day.
Yeah, for sure. You're out of it. So go back. If you had to answer the question, I want the recipe to become a professional baseball player. The 5 things. We talked about 1, mentors.
Yeah. I think the most important aspect of being able to be a professional baseball player, and this probably, I think, is relatable in any industry, is for me, the ability to deal with failure.
Okay.
Because there will be failure.
Dissect that a little more. How do you the ability to deal with failure?
On any given day, let's say in baseball, if I go to the plate 10 times and I get 3 hits, that's hitting 300.
Right.
Those are what we call Hall of Fame numbers. Right. You're an all-star. You hit 300, you're an all-star.
Right.
And if you can hit 300 over a career and you win a World Series title, you got a shot to be one of the best ever. And go to the
you're Hall of Fame for sure.
3 out of 10 means a 70% failure rate in baseball. That is a lot of failure. And that means...
So is dealing with failure changing the association of what failure looks like? Like not looking at it like it's a 70% failure. It's like, hey, is it changing your mindset on it? Or what do you mean about that?
For me, it's always been about mindset.
Yeah.
There are so many players that had a better skill set than me. They were faster. Yeah. They hit more home runs. Yeah. Maybe they had a better arm, right? Like there's so many talented players that have played this game that never reached the major leagues. And really, it's not their physical gifts that keep them from becoming great. It's really the mental game that prevents them from getting to the major leagues and then maybe sustaining a long career. It is not the physical gifts, right? It's not always about how smart you are. Yeah. Right? It's not always about, how many degrees you have. Yeah. Right? Like, no doubt, having gifts and talent helps. Yeah. But without the ability to cultivate that gift and that talent, without the ability to navigate failure, which will come in any industry, it's going to be really difficult to have sustained success. Yeah. In any industry that you're in.
Well, it's funny that you say, because I'm thinking about a show where they talked about a goldfish is the happiest animal on the planet.
And why is that?
Because it's got a 10-second memory. Right? So if you look at some of the greatest hitters of all time, they also have the greatest strikeout ratio of all time too, right? So there's something about that, like, okay, so find a mentor, deal with failure. And not looking at, maybe it's turning failure into, it's not like win or lose, it's win or learn. It's like, what I learned from that. How could I do better? And not letting, and really having a short memory, right? Because the mental aspects of any top profession, professional athlete, whatever, your ability to handle pressure is going to be directly proportionate to your success, right?
Without question.
And so, and I'm sure there's times when you were feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders playing baseball, right?
Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, even with all the pressure, right? With all the pressure from media, with expectations from fans, my own personal expectations, it's still just a game, right? There are so many people out there dealing with real life or death issues.
Problems, yeah.
Right? I got to play a game every day at 7:05. And so it was never lost on me that there were always people out there who had bigger issues. Now, look, it's my job, and so I took it seriously. It meant something to me.
Yeah.
You know, there were times when maybe I took it more seriously than I should have.
Yeah.
But when the stakes are this high and there's this amount of money that you're making that's exchanging hands, there's a responsibility to give your best effort, to always be prepared, to deal with the failure. And so part of dealing with that failure for me was being really honest with myself about what I did well and what I didn't do well. It's really tough to get better when you don't have the capability of being honest about what you're not good at.
So that's a big one in everything. It's about truly like being aware and being accountable, right? Like having an accountability. Because if you can't,
that honesty with yourself.
But if you can't measure the results and be honest about your results, you can't improve them.
No.
So part of improving them before is just being like really honest about this is where I'm at, which a lot of times I think it's hard to be honest with ourselves about things.
Yeah, I think it's normal, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good to say, you know what, I'm not good at that, or I didn't get the job done.
Right.
Right? But when you're working in an industry where if you don't get the job done, they're going to get you up out of here.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a choice.
Right.
You love playing. You know, for me, I loved being a professional athlete and playing Major League Baseball. Really, ultimately, for me, it was about the opportunity to follow in my father's footsteps, which meant the world to me.
Yeah.
But also an opportunity to win a World Series title.
Yeah.
And you can't get better unless you're honest with yourself about some of your shortcomings as a player, as a person.
Give us an example of that where you had to be really honest. Like, what were those things you were really honest where you're like, I need
it could be, I'll give you a great example. I didn't hit the breaking ball really well, right? A breaking ball is anything other than a fastball. So a curveball, a slider.
Yeah.
I just didn't I naturally didn't hit the breaking ball well.
Yeah.
Right? I could always hit a fastball well. I could hit a plus fastball, triple digit fastball, and didn't have to cheat on it, which meant like I didn't have to guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I just hit fastballs well.
Yeah.
So when you hit a fastball well, eventually, pitchers in scouting reports, right? They've got an advanced scout that's sitting behind
like,
you
throw
in the
him a
stands.
slider.
Oh yeah, anything but a fastball, right?
Yeah.
So I just didn't particularly hit it well.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I had to be honest about. I had to work on that. And I worked on that just about every day. It just had to become part of my routine.
So that's like just such a great life lesson because first of all, you're being honest. Then they have professional scouts that are saying, hey, throw this guy a changeup, a slider, a curveball, whatever.
Yeah.
So what did you do then? Like, what did that look like? You're talking extra practice where you're just hitting curveballs, sliders.
Yeah, so it was batting practice in the cage, behind the scenes, right, where no one's there. It's just me and a hitting coach, and you're hitting breaking balls, right, off of a machine, and you're just kind of, to me, kind of game planning which breaking balls I was going to be swinging at. So
and when you started that process, was it like, I'm sure you didn't love it, right? You nobody likes to take their weaknesses and make them strengths.
Success in it, right?
Yeah.
Like you just, maybe you're going through a hitting slump and you realize that, okay, listen, if I'm going to have the success that my talent says I should have in this game, I'm going to have to hit the slider better. I'm going to have to hit the curveball better. Yeah. I'm going to have to. So for me, I was like, you know what? Look, no one at this level hits a really sharp breaking ball well consistently.
Yeah.
So like, if I know I don't hit it well, I shouldn't be swinging at breaking balls early in the count.
Yeah.
Now, I worked on that for years and years. And, later on in my career, I'd say the last, 4 years, 5 years of my career, it got to the point where I could hit a hanging breaking ball well. That's the one the bad breaking ball, right?
Yeah,
That's the one you should be swinging at. The other curve balls, a sharp breaking ball, when you're, even in the count or ahead in the count, that's a no-no. But this came over time, and it became because I had the courage to be honest with myself about the fact that I didn't do that well.
Dude, I just got to stop right there because that's like such a life lesson. That's one of the hooks I'm talking about. Like being honest with ourselves about what our weaknesses and our strengths are, and not always focusing on our strengths, getting and staying in the batter box with a pitching coach, a mentor, whatever, and grinding through it till that weakness becomes a strength, which that's work.
Yeah.
That's hard work. And I just have to emphasize that because everybody that's listening could apply that in whatever they're doing. I don't care if you're in real estate, in development. It's like, be honest with yourself. Like, I know what my strengths are. I know what my weaknesses are.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you should actually always try to improve your weaknesses. There is a point where you're saying, hey, I'm going to focus on my strengths. I'm going to hire out. But when your weaknesses are inhibiting your performance and your level of success, you got to address them. And you got to put the time in.
Yeah, Tim, you hit the nail on the head. Like, you do have to be honest about those things in order to get better. But, as an entrepreneur, like, look, if there are certain things that you're not good at, or maybe you don't have the time to do, you have to have the talent and I guess the wherewithal to delegate that job to someone else who does it well. And then maybe you can learn.
But if you're not being honest about yourself, you won't even know what to delegate.
No.
So the real clear thing, though, is like being really honest with yourself and taking like an inventory
at all times.
In professional sports, which I think is interesting, it's like you have one bad season, you're gone. You have one, you start having this stuff. It's like, there's no like, we're going to keep you on for another few years if you're not cutting it, right?
Yeah. Look, you've got some leeway, right?
Yeah.
You can hang around for a couple years or 3 years if you're really, really talented and a team really believes that you're going to mature and grow as a person and as a player. You can stick around, but there's no way that you have longevity in any sport, in any industry, if you don't have the ability to get better.
Yeah. I want to highlight one more thing you said because I think it makes sense to emphasize. I know two boys that it's actually their mother is a real estate agent in San Diego, a really good one, and both boys got pulled up or they played for the Astros. Now they're split up, but I was asking the dad and the mom, I was talking to him, and one thing that I just that they emphasize is they were all like, it was my mom. She was the one there. Taking me to extra practices, taking me here. She was driving me around. She was giving up on what her dreams were to support me. So I just have to emphasize like the importance of mothers and that support because there's nothing like it, right?
Yeah. Look, we could dig deep and get into it. And, if you think about the importance of a great mother, really at the end of the day, this is your first love, your first teacher, right? The first person that you are so dependent on. You learn so much from a mother, from that relationship. I've been unbelievably blessed and fortunate to have a mother who was dedicated to my well-being, dedicated to filling me with confidence, but being honest with me, teaching me the importance of character. And, it's so easy to look at my career and point to my father as the reason that I'm in this position. But the truth is, without my amazingly smart and strong mother, I'm not sitting here in this position without her. Like it's It's I've got a really similar story to this agent in San Diego who had the two sons who played in the major leagues, right? My mom still worked, right? Single mom who worked hard, college educated, graduated from Cal State Hayward, but did all the things that parents do, right? When they're dedicated to their kids' well-being and grooming them and developing their interests. My mother was there for all of a lot of the practices and, did a lot of the work that the fathers were doing, cleaning up the Little League fields and, working at the snack bar behind home plate. I have such amazing memories of my mom doing all those things. And look, this isn't a slight on my dad. My dad was away working and handling business, but they worked as a team. And, without my mother's example and her dedication to me, I hate to think about where I'd be without that woman.
Yeah. So let's transition. You had an excellent baseball career. Let's transition. You could have stayed in baseball. You could have gone. There's a lot of different routes in baseball.
Yeah.
But your second mountain kind of looked like to me, and that's kind of how we got to know each other, is real estate. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I didn't necessarily, I wouldn't say I stumbled upon it. I retired officially when I was 37, and that is a really, really long career in itself to begin with.
Yeah.
But when you consider that I'm a second generation player and I'd been playing this game since I was born, the way I kind of explained it was, I'd been a spring training 37 straight years when I retired.
Right.
Most people, if they have a 15-year career, which is a long time, that's 15 years of spring training. For me, between my father's career and my own, I'd been in spring training up to retirement 37 straight years. And so when I was having the discussion with my dad about how I was feeling and that I felt like maybe I wanted to take a year off, that I was possibly ready for a change and ready to work on some other things and, personal things, but also maybe ready to learn something new, ready for a new challenge. My father said, okay, listen, don't make an announcement. Take a year off, see how you feel. And so by this time, it was 2010.
Okay.
And
we're in the Great Recession, mind you.
Yeah, we're kind of a recession at the time, right? Yeah. Right around 2008, 9, 2010.
Yeah.
We weren't quite recovered yet.
No.
But I was playing in New York, and we were about to start a series against the San Diego Padres in San Diego, down in Petco. And so we flew out after a Sunday game from New York. We weren't going to play until Tuesday. We had Monday off. So I came home to my place in Cameo Highlands in Corona Del Mar, just kind of catch a little bit of a break, sleep in my own bed for the first time in probably 4 or 5 months or something like that since we were playing the season. And I went to go look at a couple pieces of real estate. I'd been looking in Short Cliffs. By this time I was looking for something a little bigger. I knew that I was going to stay in Corona Del Mar. Yeah. I'd grown to love the city, love the community, and loved being by the beach. The weather's amazing. Just so many things to love about Orange County and about Corona Del Mar specifically. So I was looking for a bigger piece of property. I looked in Crystal Cove as well. I looked in Harborview Hills. Yep. And we stumbled upon this property in Irvine Terrace, and the view was, amazing.
You're talking about like Corona Del Mar is already like the crown jewel of Newport Beach, and then you're talking about Cameo Shores, Cameo Highlands, Short Cliffs. These neighborhoods are amazing, but where you ended up, and especially at the time, so to give some context, Irvine Terrace might be the best neighborhood in Southern California, right? Location-wise, the views. And so, but if you look at the south side, which is Bayadere Terrace, that's always been looked at as more valuable. Yeah. But when you look at the elevation change from Bayadere Terrace to Bayside, you're getting rooftops. When you go to Dolphin Terrace, you got like double.
Yeah, you're pretty
and you're
high
looking
up.
At like, what's great about the view, the amazing about the view you have, it's not like you're just seeing ocean and then it's dark at night. You're looking at all of the little islands in Newport Beach, coastline, Island, Catalina Linda Island. You can see all the way to Dana Point. Like, it doesn't get better. And then at night, you're seeing all the lights.
And on a clear day, on a really clear day, you can see all the way out to San Clemente Island. Right. All the way out in the water.
But when you bought in Dolphin Terrace at that time, this was like, you were really a pioneer, because there weren't a lot of people thinking that at the time.
Yeah, including me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I just happened to be home on an off day. So this was a Monday. We were going to be playing the next day. I just had an opportunity to sleep on my own bed for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And I thought, all right, I got a little time. So I called one of the agents that I was working with at the time, gave him a call. And I said, let's go see a couple properties. And so we looked in Crystal Cove. We looked at a couple blank lots up there.
Yeah.
We looked in Shore Cliffs.
Yeah.
We looked in Harborview Hills.
Yeah.
And then he called me later in the day. We had finished up for the day. He called me later in the day and said, hey, this property in Irvine Terrace just popped up, and I think we should go take a look at it. And, just like a lot of the major moments in our lives, you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
You see it, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It hits you. And so as soon as I walked out onto this particular property.
So you guys left. He said come back. So you went the next day or that night?
We went the next day.
Yeah.
So I had a game in San Diego that night.
Yeah.
But woke up at home, and he said, hey, let's go look at this piece of property. And I was like, I kind of got to rush. I got to be at the stadium. I need to leave here probably around 1:30, but yeah, let's go out and take a look at it. So we hopped over there, went and took a look at it.
And you're just like,
and I was like, wow.
Like right when you walked in.
Right when I walked out there. It's a dirt lot, right?
Right, for sure.
Weeds everywhere, but you see the view. Yeah. And I was so taken by the property that I called a family friend, and who was Mark Singer.
Yeah.
Who was contemporary architect, really known within the Orange County community, really kind of started this mid-century modern, soft contemporary kind of movement here in Orange County, if you will, just unbelievably talented. And so I walked the property with him, and I asked his opinion, and he said, this is amazing. And so at the time, he had some things going on, and I said, if I didn't use you for a project like this, who would you recommend? And so he recommended Carlton Graham.
Yeah.
And so really long story short, I got a deal done on the property, I want to say in 24 hours. And then I left to go finish up the season, and began the process of working with Carlton Graham to design a soft contemporary. A lot of people don't know this, but I grew up in a mid-century modern in San Francisco in a Joseph Eichler home. And so the house that we designed with Carlton Graham was kind of a take off of the house that I grew up in. Just really did an amazing job. But yeah, I ended up finding this property in Irvine Terrace, and it was like a 3-year process. And so this was right on the heels of me kind of deciding that I wanted to retire. So a year later...
Did this kind of help that transition?
I did retire a year later. Yeah. And so really that was a big influence. Working on this project really kind of led me to this second career. I'd always had my grandfather's career in mind. He was an entrepreneur, real estate entrepreneur, mostly in commercial real estate for him, but he also owned raw land, and we would always go and look at different homes in different neighborhoods. I always had an appreciation for architecture and design, and so when I began to design this house, maybe a month in, I realized that I was kind of using a lot of the tools that I had sharpened and grown while I was playing, right? The ability to take a bunch of team members. In this case, it was an architect, an interior designer, a GC, and take all of these people who have different gifts and talents, but using all of us to work towards this common goal of making the most amazing home that we can possibly make for me. And, really it was kind of like fortuitous in a way, because it led me to really becoming comfortable in the decision that I had made to retire, right? I found that I was passionate about real estate. I was passionate about architecture and design. And it really gave me another avenue to honor this second major male role model in my life in my grandfather, Willie Smith.
It's funny because it's funny how when you let the seeds of childhood, whether it came from a mentor or just something you're passionate, whatever, grow, literally you have this path that is kind of unfolded because how many guys, it seems like when you finish your career in baseball, you stay in baseball. You do something, you do an analyst job, but it's after 37 years, you started a new career and you've done excellent at it. And you applied the principles, those ingredients we're talking about of success, even though I don't think we hammered all 5 and 7 of them out or whatever.
Yeah.
But you apply them to this. And I mean, it would have been just as easy to be like, I'm not confident about that. But you went in there, you did the same principles, and you've been wildly successful in real estate as well.
And this, to me, I want to be careful, and, I don't want to knock any professional athlete who decides to stay in the game and kind of, I guess, utilize the opportunities that they've earned, right? And whether it be broadcasting, whether it be coaching, managing, going into the front office. For me personally, I was just ready for something new. Having been in it for 37 years, that's a really long time to be in any industry, let alone professional sports. So I was really ready for a new challenge. But, I have to be honest, there were moments, especially in those first 6 months of retirement, when I know that I'm working on this project and I'm enjoying it. I'm really I was on site every day.
Yeah.
Every day I was on site looking at the property being built, learning how everything's done, and really just taking that same skill set that I have from professional sports, but applying it to this project. But there were moments, opening day comes around that next year, right? April comes around and you're at home, you're watching your friends on TV, they're playing, and you do wonder ooh, did I make the right decision?
Right,
and you have kind of that feeling of fight or flight.
Yeah.
And look, I was a guy who had, fortunate enough to do really well financially. I had a blueprint in my grandfather for, what was possible after the sports. I had a mother and father and my sister Charisse who really encouraged me to grow outside of the game really for years at that point. But you do still have a point where you're ooh, I've done this for a long time. Maybe I should go back. And so ultimately I decided to really kind of sit in this and know, and really I went and sought some counseling to help me make the decision and to kind of work out some of the feelings that I had regarding that fight or flight. Do I go back to playing, or do I sit in this? I was spending more time with my kids, and my kids really had such a great reaction to me being home more that it really made going back impossible. But because I hadn't made an announcement yet, I still had teams calling. And so, when you're sitting at home and you're just working on this project and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. But after 6 months, right, the newness of it wears off. You've had some space and some time away from the game. You're feeling good physically, and you get a phone call for $5 million to go finish out a season. You're thinking, well, maybe I should go back.
For sure.
Right?
Well, maybe for 6. Maybe for 7, I'll go back.
But ultimately, it was my children and the love of this project and therapy, right?
So
therapy
a couple
and
things to unpack.
Feeling.
Number 1, second career, you applied the same principles, right? Which I think is amazing, and you've been wildly successful. Number 2, anytime we're transitioning, we're going to have doubts. And you said it, you got to listen to that voice. And I think even more importantly, just like you did when you were working on your breaking ball, your sliders. You went to a professional to talk about the feelings that you were having. And what's funny is my last guest today is actually my therapist. And so we're going to talk all about personal growth, which he would say there's no more important work than personal growth. But the third thing is parenting, right?
Yeah.
Now I want to end with just a couple of questions, because you're not only were you a fantastic baseball player, great in your real estate career, and I can't wait to see what the next 10 years looks like with that.
Yeah, you and me both.
right, for sure. But two last questions, because I got a lot of parents. I'm a parent. I have a 9 and a 7-year-old, and it's really important to me. My wife and I have really pushed hard to make sure that I have built something that I'm not always at work so I can be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
What would be some of your parenting advice? Because we've talked a lot about you and your relationship with your daughter and the growth she's going through. For all those parents out there, give me some of that parenting advice you'd have.
Oh man, listen, the honest communication for me and my daughter has been really, really
So
important.
what does that honest communication look like?
Well, she's 18 now. And my daughter lived in Tucson for the majority of her life. And because I was playing, we would split the parenting time. And so my daughter was out for visits once a month. We flip-flopped the holidays. I'd take her on her spring break. And then during the summers, we had every day together. So she'd get out of school during the summer, and then I'd have the whole summer with her. But because we kind of had, quite a bit of space during the school year, the importance of honesty, between my daughter and I, it was paramount. And so I don't yell, I don't cuss, I don't scream, right? Look, I got quite a few spankings in my life as a young man, but I decided that wasn't the route I wanted to take with my parents, and so with my child. And so it has really given us, it's given my daughter space to come to me with anything and be completely honest.
Well, give me some examples, because you're saying honesty. Give me some examples. Nothing too personal where you're just like, you know what? This isn't the standard, because I hear what you're saying, honest communication. And what I'm listening to is like, you're honest with you too.
Yeah.
Right? Like you got to be honest with yourself. You got to, what does that look like with a 18-year-old daughter?
I'll give you an example without getting, crazy personal.
Yeah.
I know my daughter may or may not be watching this, things pop up. But we were having a discussion. My daughter plays basketball, high school basketball. Yeah. She's a senior. And she has the talent to play at the next level. She wasn't sure if that is something she wants to do. Yeah. And so probably a couple months ago, we were sitting at dinner with my parents, and she said that she wanted to play at the next level. I was like, honey, you've got the talent to play at the next level without question, but you don't work hard enough away from the court. And, that is a space where we can have that honest conversation.
How did she take that?
And
did she agree?
She agreed with it. Right. Yeah. But normally, look, it's a sensitive conversation.
Totally.
With a young woman. Right. I want to make sure that she's always confident, right? That I do the same thing for her that my mother did for me. Yeah. Build her with confidence, but also be realistic. And at 18, she is old enough to have these brutally honest conversations about what she's good at and what she's not good at. Yeah. And I decided.
So that was 2 months ago.
This was 2 months ago.
Is what's happening now?
Yeah. Now look, her season started and she's playing. Yeah. She's having a really, really good year. She's working harder than she was before. But look, the truth is, the jury's still out, and
whether or not it's enough,
it's enough to play at the next level. I believe that we know in our heart what we really want. Yeah. No one had to tell me to go get some extra batting practice. Right. No one had to tell me to go take some ground balls on a weekend with my friends. Right. Yeah. High school is a fun time, and kids today, they have all kinds of options, all kinds of things they could be doing, and but if you want to play at the next level, whether it's college or whether it's professionally, it requires a different level of commitment to the work. Yeah. The work that no one sees, the work that no one sees on IG, right? there's no fans sitting in the stands.
So I mean, just going back, my next door neighbor in Monarch Bay, the Wells, their son just got, 3 years ago, got drafted to the Yankees. Their other son plays at USC as last year. But that's what his dad and mom was saying. They're like, at 14 to 15, when all the other kids, like, he was always talented and he was always a cut above the rest. But when it came time at 14, 15, all his friends went this way and he went this way.
Yeah.
And they said it was a lonely path. He wasn't partying. He wasn't on social media. He was working.
Yeah.
He was extra time. He was working out. And they're like, we didn't tell him he had to do this.
Yeah.
Somehow it connected, because talent might get you there, but when you get to that level, it's about hard work.
Yeah.
It's about putting the time in. It's about milliseconds. It's about extra efforts, right? So it's interesting that you say that. But I think, don't you think with your daughter, though, and anybody, as your capacity grows, you learn to work harder. So it's like,
and what I've seen is at 18 and going through the college admissions process, she has really taken ownership of this aspect of her life. She's really beginning to. We talked a little bit before we started about my daughter recognizing that she needs to think about what she wants her life to look like and the opportunities that she has. And so as far as preparation for college, admissions in schools, and the type of person that she is, she's amazing, right? She is lights out. And so for me, the sports and the basketball is secondary.
Yeah.
I only discussed it in that type of way with her
because she said she
brought it up and she said she wanted it. And it's like, listen, if you say you want it, then this is what it's got to be. But to see her level of maturity in the other aspects, given the challenges of this past year, I'm just so impressed with her. Like, she's going to be fine whichever path that she chooses. But all of us have to take ownership of that. We have to take ownership about what we need to do better, about what is required from us if we want to have the achievements that we want to have. And whether it's a high school basketball student athlete like my daughter, or one of the top real estate agents, or a former professional baseball player who's now become a real estate investor, we all have things that we have to get dedicated to and have to have that type of honesty and even at this level, mentorship to help us get to next level.
There's never time. Well, we appreciate you being here. I got one more question for you. But to wrap a couple things up, I love the stay in the batter's box, face your weaknesses, be honest, and work through it. Like, that's a big theme for me. The other theme is family, your intuition, being honest. If there were a quote, or if you had a billboard that you wanted to be remembered by, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. I still do this, but while I was playing, I had 2 questions for myself at the end of every night. Win, lose, draw, good game, bad game, great game, whatever it was. I had 2 questions. And it was, when I'm looking in the mirror, brushing my teeth, it's, was I prepared? And did I give my best effort? I never wanted to have to answer no to those questions. You can lie to your friends, you can lie to the media, you can front for the front office and maybe teammates, but when you're looking in that mirror, you know whether you were prepared. You know whether you gave your best effort. As long as I give my best effort and I'm prepared, I'll never have any regrets, and neither should anyone else. Things have a way of falling in a line if you are honest about those things. Yeah, we know there's a lot of other things that kind of go into success. But for me, those questions were the one thing that still remain constant today.
And we can use them in everything. I mean, the funny thing is, I probably should have asked you that first, because we could have gone through the was I prepared and did I do my best? Because when you really ask yourself those questions, did I do my best? Could I give in more effort? Could I worked harder? Could I been, like, there's so many things that go into, it was a real treat to have you here today. And I would love that your second career is right in line with me, and hopefully that down the road we'll be able to do some stuff together.
Hopefully there's some big things coming, man. I appreciate it. Sure. Thanks for having me. Happy holidays to you, man. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to RUHM, presented by the Smith Group. This episode was hosted by Tim Smith and produced by Michelle Akers. Chris Stacy is our studio director. Editing by Jake Austin. Special thanks to Pacific Staging and Sandy Newport.